Oh, so where's my post-workout shake? Oh, it'll be £3. Oh, you got a towel? No. Oh.
So basically, so you'd listen to a podcast, implemented this, and then that changed the direction of your business, and things were working out for you.
And then it's also business, and I was listening to mental healthy stuff as well. Like, there'd be the business people would be referenced in a book. So one of them referenced that book, The Law of Attraction, that I mentioned before.
Okay.
The Law of Attraction by Michael Logier. So again, this book here was literally mentioned on a business podcast.
Yeah.
So like I said before, I'm like, right, there's this guy who's a multi-millionaire has said this book helped him. Right. Because this guy openly admitted he struggled with mental health. Awesome. So this book helped him. Right, I'm going to read it. Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you. Welcome back to another episode of the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you both mentally and physically become the best version of you. I'm your host, Daniel James, and today I'm joined by Mr. Mikey Markham. How are we?
I'm back, baby.
I love that you're now repping the PLP in your hoodie as well. Love it.
I think I need a new one, mate. It's getting a bit faded in colour.
We'll get another one. We'll get you a special podcast one.
It means it's been well worn.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so, like I said, for those of you that are long-time listeners of the podcast, you know the situation with this. For those of you that are new listeners, there's three types of podcasts. We've got myself, where I just come on and I basically try and just add as much value as I possibly can in one episode about stuff that I've learnt, applied in my own life, and then basically pass on to you guys. So that's more of like an educational sort of like power hour. Something really an hour.
Mate,
is it? Like 30 minutes. It's not power hour. It's not
the
power
hour.
Power 30 minutes. Power half hour. Then we've got episodes where I bring on a guest. So again, that's just me bringing someone on that's knowledgeable in whatever field it is they're talking about. And the whole purpose of them coming on is basically try and add as much value as they can to you guys. Again, the listener. The whole point of me bringing the guests on, everyone knows they're coming on to basically add value to you guys. It's not about me, it's about you guys. And then finally, we then have episodes with me and Mikey where basically, if anyone doesn't know, Mikey's the cameraman, he does all the amazing work. He's an absolute legend. Got his own podcast as well. And basically, we just talk for an hour about random things that we basically have just discussed 5 minutes before. So there's no sort of scripting in this, there's no planning. It's just two guys having a real, honest, open conversation where Mikey knows the topic and then he sort of guides it based on my answer. So yeah, what we're talking about today.
Today's topic is literally about the podcast and how much it sort of developed in the time that, well, I've been on board and the trajectory it's hit since starting it and why you started it, really. So shall we get into the why first?
That's an interesting one. Because it's interesting, like the fact that I think you looked before that you've been involved now in more than half the episodes.
Yeah, I started at literally number 70. Yeah. And what are you on now?
140. Well, I think we've done 142.
Yeah.
But we've got 5 in the bank.
A few in the bank.
So like, yes, anyone.
So
again,
more than half.
We've kind of just told people how we do it. Like we have them in the bank. So like I said, we always record some, and there's been one that's going to come out soon. And again, we've sort of planned it. So depending on when, well, it says it's going to come out soon. Like by the time you listen to this, it would already have come out, I believe. And basically the order that we did it in, we've got 2 powerful episodes back to back. And one of the episodes, we had to wait to get it to the right time to actually record it. So we had to hold the other one back. So you'll notice that 2 episodes will come out back to back. If you look at the video of it, I will probably look totally different. I've either have a beard and then not have one, or vice versa. But anyway,
you get your long hair back.
Yeah, just randomly. Oh my god,
that was wild.
No, why did people let me do that? Why did people let me walk around like that?
It was when I met you. That was.
Was it?
So yeah, you had the long hair. Yeah, you always talk about my crazy jacket, but I'm like, what about your long hair?
Me. Oh mate, honestly,
we've grown since.
What I'll do is I get you to pop a picture of this up so people can actually see what I look like.
Yeah.
Honestly, mate, that was wild.
It was a decision I needed to question, but I wasn't strong enough in our friendship yet to talk to you about it. Yeah, like.
But mate, how many episodes did it take me for me to realise what was underneath your cap as well? Because I'd never seen you without a cap on, had I? And literally one day you just like. So basically, I'm in the process of Mikey owning the fact he looks like Jason Statham.
Yeah,
so, like,
taking it.
So we're going to get him to like full on Mach 3 Gillette it and just own it. So when you next see Mikey on here and he's not got a cap on, it's because we're basically just letting him step into and owning it, his power.
The caps, it's become the identity now. I think people just expect a cap, some form of hat or headwear.
Yeah.
I like it.
Did I just ask you outright? Do you have hair underneath it, or was your hair?
No, it came off one day. We went to take my jacket off and my hat's off, and you're like, oh.
Didn't even.
You're bold.
And the funniest thing was when we had Dave Norton on. You and Dave were talking about bald hair, and I just sat there like, what am I listening to?
Proper
right now?
connecting
honestly,
over it.
Honestly, and he's like, oh,
when did you lose yours?
Honestly, so the podcast. Honestly, because I look back at it, 'cause the original 4 episodes were actually videoed.
Were they?
Yeah. by a university student.
I remember you telling me a bit about
Yeah,
this.
so basically I had a university student. Basically, the whole reason when it came to me doing the podcast was I think I spoke about it on your podcast before, is that basically I was listening to podcasts and that helped me through my mental health. And then basically when I got myself to a place where I'm like, I now am at the place where my life is really good and stable and I have information that I can use to help people. I was like, well, what's the best way of doing that? Because obviously at the time I was very, very heavily invested in my personal training. So the Prime Life Project, had it been set up? I think it had been set up, but it wasn't very old. So basically the Prime Life Project...
It was in its infancy.
It was in its infancy. Basically the Prime Life Project started off as basically a personal training company, essentially. So basically myself and then my team of coaches that I created. And then obviously now it's kind of very much shifted. So the podcast has shifted and evolved, and so has the company. So it kind of now stands for a lot more, especially the podcast. It's not about fat loss. I don't really think I've covered fat loss at all, really. It's all about the mental health, self-development and self-improvement. And that's, again, what my coaching is all about. So my coaches, there's so many different coaches that cover different things, and it kind of started out as like a fat loss company, but actually if you look at the coaches, they all specialize in different things that aren't to do with fat loss. So it's quite an interesting thing of how the company was set up for one reason and how it's just naturally evolved into what it is now. And obviously now I'm talking in schools and doing all this other stuff. There's so many things.
Wild, isn't it, actually?
I didn't tell you about this. The last school I spoke to, I've announced this live when I'm talking to you.
Here we go.
I do a video series for my clients. So my clients will now do a video series. I was doing my meditative writing at the start of this week, and it came to me, and I wrote it on my board there, about doing a video series for the schools, because I think when I go to do my public speaking in the schools, the kids absolutely love it, and then I leave, and I always think, then what?
Is that enough? Yeah.
So then I thought, right, well actually what I'll do is I give them the option to sign up to basically watch 5 or 6 videos deep dive in mental health and mindset stuff. So those of them that are really interested, they don't have to put their hand up and say they are. They can just click on this thing and watch it. So I then put it to a school, and basically the school said, hold on a second. She went off, came back and said, we're going to have this as part of the PSHE.
Wow.
So literally my video is going to be shown in PSHE in one of the schools. Yeah, so hopefully
so you created the videos, sent the package over.
I've not even created the videos yet. I just told them
what the premise was.
I do them for my clients. So I've already done them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I basically then wrote out, just on my iPad, I just wrote out what videos do I want to give these kids, what would be the most powerful ones that I've done. Basically wrote them out, and the teacher was like, oh, so what videos are you going to have? And I basically said, well, this one, it covers this one covers this. And she was like, wow, yeah. So it's like, cool. And then basically said I can also do these other ones, like body image, like a different one, that's body image and stuff like that, like negative thoughts and feelings, all that sort of stuff. Saw in workshops, all them.
Mate. Okay, man. Wicked. Let's get into
that's crazy. That's something that came out of like
high five, dude.
That fucking came out of nowhere.
Amazing work.
But it just goes to show you like the natural projection and trajectory of everything that like we're on board
with. That self-belief and what you want to do, you've got the intent all planned out.
It's aligned up now. And this was said to you before, like, because the vision thing when you jumped on board with this was, I was on your podcast and you basically was like, mate, I love everything that you're about. I want to come along the journey with you. And you kind of have, like, even that's the Paul Cope thing. So obviously you met Paul Cope for himself, and then we went on that course, didn't we? And then look how much that's helped you out with stuff.
Yeah,
so all of these things, like the whole thing has like been a journey.
It is a journey,
it's just a journey of like what's going on. I've got Katie on board as well. So like when you come in here, it's like a little bit of like a...
And we know there's more plans brewing. We won't put it all out in there, but
there's loads of plans
very
brewing
exciting
in the background.
stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like there's a lot of stuff coming, but I originally just set it up because I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
I was like, I have some information here, and I originally set it up. I was like, if I just help one person... Because I've never been good at marketing. I really don't, I'm not good at selling myself, I'm honest with you. It's not something I've ever really focused on. But I was like, if I just get one person listening to this, and not just listen, but actually help them, then mission accomplished. And I know I've gone above and beyond that now. But at the time, it was a real thing of like, if I can just have one person listen to this, and I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And I look back at the first episode about sharing my story, and it was quite timid. And why I set it up again was quite timid.
Yeah.
So now I was talking about it. I think it's quite a nice thing. But for me, it's not about... These episodes and the podcast is not about me. It's about me talking to me.
Do.
So it was me talking to me.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Be the person you needed when you were younger, kind of.
That's literally it. And again, that's my mantra. I've used that phrase. I'm trying to be the person, when I go into schools, I'm trying to be the person I wish I was and that I needed. So when I'm talking, I'm imagining myself listening to it. Yeah. So when I'm asking questions, I'm asking a question, imagining I'm a listener.
Yeah.
Rather than imagining...
16-year-old,
yeah, rather than me listening... and asking a question from how I am now.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? I'm always trying... Don't get me wrong, I don't always achieve it, but I'm always thinking of
and that helps you speak in layman's terms, so stuff that people can understand, rather than where you're at now. If you was to try and explain something in the way that your mind operates, you're going to lose a lot of people down here. But you having that ability to think about, who was I back here? What would I needed to have heard? And then you can sort of... I don't want to say the word dilute it, but... that makes the
Make
most...
it resonate with more people.
Yes.
Because it's like, look at the
more
Betty,
accessible.
Look at exactly.
Yeah.
Look at the Betty episode, for example. Remember Betty?
Yeah.
We did. So before we started, I did a lot of research into her, and that woman is unbelievably deep. Unbelievable. It's one of my favourite episodes. And the reason it's one of my favourite episodes is because I believe in that stuff that she talks about wholeheartedly. But before we started, I made it very clear to her. I said, Betty, I love everything about you. Like, what you're doing is incredible. But we need to just sort of knock it down a few pegs.
Yeah.
Because you're going to lose a lot of my audience. Now, a lot of my audience do understand what you're talking about, but they can still get some value from you just talking down here. Because the thing for me is it's understanding this accessible stuff when it comes to like the universal laws and the fact that we are energy beings, and people will listen to that, but you're nuts. But honestly, the information is all out there. I've literally just bought another book from 1925.
Nice.
Against a 7-volume thing. Like someone, again, you look at it, it's normally like £600 or £700, but someone was selling it on eBay, and they've clearly just gone through their like grandparents' attic and found it, and just like, £35. I'm just like, I'll give you 100, and they accepted it. But they clearly didn't know what they had.
Mate, that's
so
amazing.
I was just like, 6, I'll take that. But my point is, all this information is in these books. And you look at like how we are struggling, and I did an Instagram post this the other day. You look at how we're struggling when it comes to mental health and how bad mental health has got.
Yeah.
I fully believe that society has been designed for people to struggle. It's not designed for people to actually thrive. If you look at how we're meant to be connected with nature, all of these things, like we're just not doing it at all. And people aren't taught how to think. And fundamentally, one of our higher faculties that separate us from a dog, because what can a dog do? It can hear, it can taste, it can touch, it can see, it can smell.
Got the senses.
It's got the senses.
Yeah.
So what separates us from a dog? It's not our senses. It's our ability to actually think. Yet we don't think. Most people do not think. And that's the thing. We're not taught how to think. We're not taught how to use this amazing power they've got of the brain. So I spoke about my clients the other day. We talk about the mind. People think the mind is the brain. Your mind is not your brain. But we don't understand any of this stuff. And it's like, and going back to this, I'm not trying to lose my audience here, but like I said, the stuff I'm understanding and learning, it's like I know all of this stuff that can help so many people. But if I start talking about this, I will lose half my audience.
You made
so
me
I'm just
feel,
trying to just be like, let's just bring it back here.
You made me feel envious then of the dog. I was like, oh man.
but it's true. But again, just think about it.
Yeah,
just think about it. Most people don't think. What is separating most people from an animal? What does your dog do? Wakes up, eats, goes to the toilet, walks around a bit, goes to sleep again. Fucks. That's basically it. Do you know what I mean? But let's be honest.
Yeah.
What separates most people from animals nowadays? Not a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be thought. It should be our ability to actually think. Creativity, imagination, willpower. All of these things are what separates us from animals.
Opposable thumbs.
that as a kid. But again, look at people that again don't have hands. They are still more than an animal.
Yeah.
So our body is not who we are.
Yeah.
This is a deep conversation about this.
Mate,
we'll fucking go there.
Yeah.
Like, we are not our body. So if someone says to you, who are you? You'll be like, well, I'm Mikey Markham.
Start describing an
Yeah, but you're not. That's your name. There's 2 words.
Self.
Yeah, that's 2 words. And you'll be like, okay, well, this is me. Well, no, that's your body. You've never once said, I am hand.
Yeah.
I am body.
I was listening to something like this on an Alan Watts recently. But blew my socks off.
Yeah, but it's all stuff I'm learning right now. It's like, that's not you. Who are you? Who actually are you? You say, I am my body. Okay, who I am. Who is the I am? That is you as a spiritual being and what you actually are. And our potential is absolutely limitless. And if you think about energy can't be destroyed or created. Okay?
Yeah.
And thoughts are energy. Okay? That means that every single thought that ever has been and ever will be is still in the universe right now.
In the ether.
In
the eternal pool.
Yeah. Every thought that ever will be is already out there. It just hasn't been almost downloaded if you want.
Channeled and accessed.
Yeah. So my point is with this, linking it back to the...
I like it.
Because we're going off on a massive tangent.
This comes into a Muhammad Ali's shortest ever poem is me, we. But it's that same pool of what we're all the same.
We're exactly the same.
It's all in the same
we are
frequency.
Literally all exactly the same.
Vibration.
People call it God, and people don't like the word God. That's fine. God is just a word people have used to basically make this thing be like them, because God, they see God as a person, as a thing.
Yeah.
But you can't explain universal energy. And that for some people is like spirit. It's spirit. So it's like, well, actually, we'll just create this person, because then they can, I get it, it's this person. I can relate to that. But if you try and convince people that there's this invisible thing that's all around us, and again, science backs this all up, just Google it. It's literally just Google it.
Mate, well, I'm in on this. Yeah. Let me jump us back then.
Yeah, jump back. Yeah. Mikey, take back control.
The power, mate. I love everything you say there.
Yeah. But that's my point.
It's the truth and it's the beauty.
But again, I want people to win.
Yeah.
I want people to get to a place where I'm at in my life. I'm a perfect no. Do I still have bad days? Yes. but I understand the rules of life,
Yeah.
and I'm working my way up to do what I want to be doing. And everything that's happening in my life, as you know, every time you come here, you're like, God, like your life is just nuts.
Yeah.
Like, in a positive way. It's like, yeah, but it's by design.
Yeah. It's the
I'm literally
awareness to
designing
it
it.
and the dipping into that pool.
Yeah, I'm designing it. I'm designing the life that I'm living.
Yeah. But in terms of this podcast, when you said earlier that you had other podcasts first that saved you and were looking after you and then sort of inspired you to go on, what were some of those?
What's the one that's got... Russell Brand's one was a good one, but he's now made it monetized. That was annoying.
Hasn't he moved on for it? He's going to Rumble now, though, isn't he?
Is that where you got paid for it?
It's a website that I think you subscribe to, but it's because it's trying to be a free speech platform. So
Yeah.
I think you subscribe to it.
So they're not him, because it was back in the day. So his was one of them.
Yeah,
Andy
Audible.
Frisella's was a good one.
Yeah.
And the Fern Cotton's Happy Place was a good
Yeah,
one as
she's
well.
awesome, isn't
Yeah,
she?
so there's ones like that. And then basically, they were the three main ones, where basically I was just like, oh, there's more information out there.
Were you just lapping this up
Yeah.
every day? Were you waking up? What's next? What's next?
So I was... so where have I been on my journey? So I've come out of depression. And I basically managed to drag myself out of there. Again, going back to the story, I dragged myself out of there by forcing myself to go work in a pub.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me, like just going and doing that. So I wasn't listening to podcasts then. And then moved to Manchester, or Cheshire, moved to Cheshire to go and work at a place up there. And I was then kind of dibbing and dabbing because I was in the car so much on podcasts.
Yeah.
So that's when I started to listen to it. So I'd got myself to a place of okay. So from depressed, I got myself to okay. So I wasn't thriving. I was just like, I need to move.
What
from
made you go
Nottingham.
podcast though? Why podcast?
Because I was just driving in the
So
car.
it's a long journey.
So it was 2 hours. I was driving to the time I was living in Birmingham, and then driving to Cheshire, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So again, driving there and back, basically 3 hours of my day, 4 hours of my day.
Yeah.
Maybe longer if I was stuck in traffic. I was like, right, what can I do? So there's only so many times you can listen to the same music and playlist.
Definitely.
So I was like, so I started to do that, sack that off, and then it's just like the radio. Again, I hated modern music, so I was like, right, no, sack that off. And I was like, audiobooks. The problem with audiobooks is because it's a book, I couldn't concentrate.
Yeah.
As in the sense of they were just reading.
You have to be in for the
You have
day,
to,
don't you?
because it gives you. It's like if the reading and my mind goes,
Yeah.
because it's not a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I've lost. Right, I've been daydreaming about this part of the book.
Can't
and
dib
I've lost
and dib
half of
out
it.
so much.
Exactly. Whereas with the podcast, it's a conversation. I was like, wow, these things are amazing. And I had previously listened to podcasts when I went to M10. So 2 or 3 years prior to that, I've been listening to fitness podcasts and like about functional medicine and all that sort of stuff. So I had been listening to podcasts. It was called, it's not around anymore. It was called, Sean Croxton was his name. Absolutely incredible, like podcast, amazing, like absolutely incredible podcaster. And he basically interviewed functional medicine doctors about modern day medicine and all that sort of stuff and how to basically heal yourself. And so I was like, this is fascinating, and fat loss and all that sort of stuff. Wow. So I'd listened to that, but then I was just like, oh, well, there's gonna be something on mindset and like business, and that's basically where I went down the rabbit hole. And then I was listening to all of them driving, and then my mind would just go nuts. And some of them, especially when it comes to business, because then when I left Cheshire, I then came back to Nottingham. I was just like, right, I need to change my business model. And then I started to listen to these business podcasts, and they basically taught me about, right, well, because before my whole business model was how can I make money?
Yeah.
And whenever I was thinking, how can I make money? I was broke. And one of the podcasts basically said, no, you got it wrong. Like, you need to go from a place of how can I help and add value?
I love that.
Because once you add value, the money will come.
Byproduct.
So that's when I was just like, right. So then I went back to this place. So again, I was working in this gym with a load of other coaches, and I was by myself. But anyone that came to work with me, they got free intra-workout drink. They got free post-workout protein shake. And they got a towel.
Uh-huh.
So when you came in to train with me, oh, here's your towel, Mikey. Oh, here's your drink for while you train. And when you finish, here's your protein shake. It was all part of the service.
Yeah.
And that's...
Going that extra mile.
Going an extra mile. And all that was for £45 a session.
Wow.
So you're thinking, wow, okay, that's really good. Because again, I'd learnt from the companies I'd worked at before, where you're paying £75, £80 an hour for personal training, between 60 and 80. But then you want a coffee, or extra. Or you want a towel, extra. Or you want a protein shake, extra. And I was like, these guys are paying so much money. Like, why can't I just absorb some of this cost and actually make my service worthwhile? And that's when I then create the Prime Life Project to then do the same thing. So then everyone signed up the Prime Life Project. Oh, here's a logbook. Here's a protein shaker. Here's an intra-workout shake for free. Here's a post-workout shake for free. Here's my library. Again, people had access to a library. So people could come in and literally all the books that are behind me, people had free access to it. They could come in and pick a book and just take it with them. So all of it's just adding value.
And that transcended from you just listening to business podcasts.
Podcasts and just basically, and again, just reading between the lines what people were saying.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm only one guy. What can I do? So then I was just like, right, my coaches are paying me this money because obviously that's basically how it works. Obviously, they paid the gym some money and they paid me some money. And then in return, I was getting them clients and I was educating them. But I'm like, right, where else can you go and get access to a library, towels, intra-workout shake, post-workout shake, a protein shaker and a logbook, and my coaches, some of them were just starting out for £35 a session.
Yeah.
Well, tell me where you can do that. You can't.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, so you're going to leave the Prime Life Project and go to another place. And then you're like, oh, so where's my post-workout shake? Oh, it'll be £3. Oh, you got a towel? No. Oh.
So basically, so you'd listened to a podcast, implemented this, and then that changed the direction of your business, and things were working out for you.
And then it's also business, and I was listening to mental healthy stuff as well. Like, there'd be the business people would be referencing a book. So one of them referenced that book, The Law of Attraction, I mentioned before.
Okay.
The Law of Attraction by Michael Lodge. So again, this book here was literally mentioned on a business podcast.
Yeah.
So like I said before, I'm like, right, there's this guy who's a multi-millionaire has said this book helped him. Right. Because this guy openly admitted he struggled with mental health. Awesome. So this book helped him. Right, I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
And that's basically that's why I started reading all his books. Because I'd hear on podcast, well, if this guy's reading it, right, okay, cool, I'm going to read it. There's another one here as well. Let me just quickly find it. Delivering Happiness. Ooh. Again, talks about building good values in a business. That's what the Prime Life Project, a guy called Tom Heshey. Okay, wicked. So again, building up my brand, I built up the Prime Life Project based on this book. It's all based on these people that are successful multimillionaire CEOs. I'm like, well, I'm not a multimillionaire yet, but I've got to copy what they're doing. Yeah. And that's basically now where the Prime Life Project's going. The stuff that I said when it comes to the Prime Life Project next year, 2023, you're going to see it explode. And it's for no reason. It's going to explode. The stuff that's going on behind the scenes right now is insane. Yeah. Because it's really become apparent to me the power that I've got with what I'm doing. And it's all built on good. Yeah. It's all built on actually helping people. That's what it's all about. And if you help people, the money will come. Yeah. And that's the thing for me. And this is where it goes to with the Prime Life Project. The Prime Life Project allowed me to hire you. So the first thing I did was, with my podcast, right, this is really starting to take legs now. How do I get it out to more people? Right, video. Yeah. And then I hire you. So then it allows me to help more people. So the whole thing is that when I'm making more money, it's not about me then driving a nice car, living in a nice house and doing all these things. It's nothing to do with that because I don't live in a nice house. I still live at home with my parents. Why? Because I put all the money back into the business. Yeah, yeah. Literally it. People laugh at that. It's like, I would rather be putting the money back into the business and do good for people because I live here anyway. I'm literally in this office 24/7. And when I was at the gym, I was living there. So I literally just use it as a bit of a bed sit. I hardly move. It's like a hotel. My point is, everything I'm earning, it's not about me making money. It's about how can I put it back into business to help more people, because the more people I help, the more the company's going to grow. And then eventually get to a place where it's like, oh, well, there you go, house, car. All that stuff is a byproduct of actually helping people and coming from a place of genuine sincerity of, right, I know some stuff. I've now got connections with people that know some stuff. Yeah. Let's just add some value. Yes. And that's what I'll try and do.
I just, my little bit of when I got into podcasts was when I was in Australia. And it was by accident. I was on a treadmill and it just went on to... Have you heard of Ben Coomber?
Yeah, Ben Coomber, yeah. I know him.
Mate, oh dear. Yeah. Lovely fella, isn't he? Just sounds really fun.
Awesome supplements.
But
is the name of his supplements.
It was really annoying when I was on the treadmill and it went on to that and there was like, people talking. What is this nonsense? So, but because I was in flow... I was like, I've got to let it play now. I don't want to stop. And I kept going. And within 20 minutes, he had this really nice relationship with his co-host. And I thought, this is interesting. Because I just thought it as radio. And I used to hate radio. Yeah. Do you know the nonsensical, trivial conversations they used to conduct on radio?
Forced.
Yeah.
Forced conversation.
Contrived, building it together. Yeah. You're like, what are you talking about? This is nonsense. So, honestly, I was... running on a treadmill, it must have been my playlist over, and for some reason his podcast, I think it's because it was the top of the charts at the time, it came on.
Was it on Spotify?
No, it was Apple Podcasts.
I think sometimes
not podcast, Apple Music.
Because that's what they're trying to do, I think, to try and push them, weren't they?
Well, it must have been a surge at the time. It was 10 years ago, more. So podcasts were just blossoming and finding through. And it came on the treadmill, and I promise you, I was supposed to do half an hour treadmill. I ended up doing like a 2-hour treadmill. I was just fascinated to what this was, because clearly at the time I was into the gym, and he was talking about all stuff I was interested in and doing. And that was it. I went, right, this guy, I'm going to go down his path. And it's brilliant, isn't it? People complain about algorithms and stuff, but if you can utilize it and use it to your advantage, beautiful.
It's like social media. Like, there's negatives to it. There's also loads of positives.
Yeah.
So social media can be really crippling, but actually there's some amazing stuff you can actually learn from it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing for me. It's what I'm trying to do here with the podcast is some people aren't going to be interested in all the topics, but if you just sit and listen, then what you'll find is 5, 6, 7 weeks down the line, I guarantee you, some people are like, oh, this is a podcast on that.
Yeah.
And you can actually then add value to that person. And that, for me, is the most important thing, where people listen to stuff, they take it in, and they pass it on. Because then what you're doing is you're then impacting so many other people's lives, and you don't realise it. And I said it before on Instagram, I love it when people actually message me, like, I've just listened to this episode, it's incredible. I've listened to this. I'm like, wow. I'm pretty sure you get on your podcast as well. It's like, when people actually take the time to message me and say, this is, like, I love this. Like, I'm like, wow.
It makes the juice worth the squeeze.
100%, because like you don't get instant feedback. It's like on the radio with that time we did the radio when it was on the live radio,
nice,
and you got instant feedback because people were messaging in saying, "Oh, I love this." It's like, that's amazing. You don't get this on the podcast. All I sort of know is when we're doing the episode. I think I said this before. Like, I kind of get a vibe that this is a good one, or this is, I'm not really in my flow state today. But then it goes out, and the ones that I'm a bit like, I wasn't really feeling it. People are like, oh, I love this one.
Yeah.
So, but again, because people, I'm not trying to aim this at one person. It's like, just here's a whole host of topics on self-development, self-improvement, because there's no one size fits all. So it's not just about, well, this is what I believe, let's talk about this. It's like, well, some people when they come in and talk about stuff, it's like might not necessarily what I agree with, but people like tapping, for example. Yeah. When we did the episode on tapping, have I ever tapped? No, I haven't. It's not really a thing that I'm into. But then look at the Dave Norton episode. Dave Norton swears by tapping. And I've had someone else that said, oh, I listened to that episode, and I've actually hired that person.
Yeah.
So not only have I impacted that person's life, that person's also then actually got business from being on the podcast. But it's like, 100%. It's like, but I've never done tapping before. But I then didn't instantly like, well, that's a load of rubbish. It's like, well, it clearly works, because otherwise it wouldn't be around still. So let's just have a conversation about tapping, because I don't know anything about it. Awesome. And that's what it should be.
So, mate, that's your introduction into why podcasts, and I love that. Then, I don't know, as a host myself, I was quite imposter syndrome, like doing podcasts for a bit, but now I'm fully committed. I love what it is. I'm in my flow. I've noticed you change since when working with you for that episode 70 to we're at 140 now. But can you pinpoint a moment where you thought, I'm suited for this. This is my trajectory now, and I feel confident doing what I'm doing?
The first big thing I remember is, I think I said this to you before, the episode with Tommy Gentleman. I'm not sure what episode that was.
I'll put it in.
It was during lockdown. Got Tommy Gentleman, who again, really good, like basically kind of doing what I wanted to do. Again, so I was looking at him thinking, wow, he's like public speaking, he's doing all these amazing things, like he's into his mindset stuff. I'm like, wow, he's further along the journey than me. Let's get him on. An amazing podcast, and for whatever reason, when I was talking, my microphone had stopped working, or it was echoey, or it was crackly, or something.
Technology, man.
Technology. Oh, so then I had to go back and re-record every single word that I said.
What?
Yeah. So if you listen back to the episode, when I talk, that is me playing the episode and having to re-pretend I was there. So if we were laughing, I'd be like, ha 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 ha, and then carry on talking. That's episode number 9. That's
mate,
what I had to
this
do.
is a great story.
So at that moment,
I've never heard anything.
Mate, it took me, I'm not joking, about 3.5, 4 hours. You know how to edit. It took me about 3.5, 4 hours to do. No word of a lie, because this is before the video, so there's no video.
How long was the episode, sorry?
About an hour. Yeah, so imagine.
An hour, and you're going back through it and re-speaking. Mate, that shows your character.
So my point with that is, it was that moment I realised.
You actually made me come up then.
Hey, calm down.
I know, I just had a nice moment.
Let's keep it PG here. It was that moment I realised, I'm made for this. Yeah. Because it's like, no one can say to me, oh, you don't deserve this. Because I'm like, I've literally spent 3.5 hours to edit this so that my audience can listen to the value that Tommy's brought.
That makes me realise how similar we are as people, because the amount of friends I've got that this didn't work, I gave up. But so many similar ones with the filming. There's a thing called like a lapse in the audio lapse and shifting. And again, exact same. It just kept drifting out all the time, and I had to. Some of them took like 4 or 5 hours, but I just knew this is what I want to do. I love this. This is what helped me. This is what fixed me on my path, and just kept going and going and going and building that resilience to it. And just got to keep on stepping, haven't you? And I look that story. I knew you'd had a hard edit once. I remember you telling me.
Oh no, I've had another hard edit. So that's another episode.
Mate,
that I did.
I've never heard that though. That
was the hardest. That was the hardest edit. And then there's another episode where the guest basically just would pause for ages before talking. So I literally had to go back and remove all the pauses. Again, that was a hard edit to do. This is when, again, before you did my edits for me, I had to do this all myself. So again, that's why, again, knowing I was like, I really want to do this, because if I didn't want to do it, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And people don't, if I don't want to do something, I just will not do it.
Yeah.
So with that podcast, it's like, no, the fact I'm actually willing to spend 4.5 hours, whatever it was, to re-edit this and re-record the audio.
Wow.
That tells me that I actually want to do this.
I'll tell anecdotes to people all the time of funny bits people have. That's one that I'm going to keep in my little box and recite to people when they say, "Oh, I had to do this once." I'm going to go. Do you know one of my best mates, Dan?
Yeah. But it made me really. But again, Joe Simpson did that. So again, it's episode number 8, and you came in episode 70.
Yeah.
So again, that's 62 episodes.
Yeah.
Good maths there. Look at me learning. 62 episodes. That's 62 episodes, but I got better at editing because I had to do that.
Yeah.
So it really taught me how to edit and really just get really good at doing it. And basically then also taught me to make sure that my audio is on point for a start.
And the self-editing, listening to yourself back.
All that stuff, honestly, it was massive.
Huge.
So the thing for me is like, and that's also part of it now, is the one thing that I don't get to do is listen back to myself while I'm editing, which I used to do.
Yeah.
And that then allowed me to correct myself. So then what I do is, and then what I have noticed is, when I do episodes by myself, I say, I've got a phrase that I always say, and it bothers me.
What's that?
What does it say? What do I say?
Come on, Katie, you should know this. You listen to his phrases all the time.
I do.
It'll come to me.
Yeah.
It'll come to me. I say it, and when I listen back to it, I'm like, I keep saying that word, nothing. And no one else probably noticed it, but I notice I do. I say the same thing.
Mate, mine is, I've got a few. One's wow. Mm-hmm. I just can't help. It's like a little trigger I've got.
And again. And again, I say.
And again.
So what happens is I go off on a tangent, and as you bring me back round, I go, and again.
Yeah.
And again, and I'm like, I'm saying that thing again. It's not necessarily a problem, but I notice myself doing it. I'm like, oh. So then it then makes me aware of, right, this is how I get better. And that's, to answer your question, that was the first point that I noticed, that I'm really good at this. And then when you came on board, it then became different because people can now see me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, how are my mannerisms? How am I actually interacting? And then I've got better and better guests. So I was just like, I need to just get better at interviewing.
Yeah, well,
and listening.
Thinking of guests, then that's a really interesting point. We've really hit a bit of a track where it's just been gold. Like I wouldn't mention one anyway, really, but I don't think you've ever had a dud.
Who's your favourite? Who's your favourite one?
Oh, clearly Paul Cope for me.
Do you think? So Paul Cope's my favourite because we know him as a person.
It was just the whole situation we had together where we didn't expect it. You built up this story. This guy's a bit of a joker, and you were going to kind of rip into him a bit. And I was looking forward to that to a degree. And then when both of us, we didn't get arses handed to us, but we were just like,
wow, this guy knows.
Oh,
yeah, he knows.
He actually can fix it.
And that's my favourite. And then Rory as well was one of the most recent ones. Purely because,
that
again,
was stunning.
Didn't expect that. It's the first time I've had anyone that I literally really didn't know, and it was face to face. I was like, wow, this is powerful. And then obviously the Dave Norton one as well. Just doing that, just purely from the sense of. I assume your question was like with the guests. Were you going down?
I was going to say that. Sort of, how do you plan it? Because you haven't had any duds, and a lot of people that have podcast shows always go, oh, there was this one, and oh my God, you should have seen this person. But genuinely, since I've worked for you, every time it's a wow moment. I honestly, I can't remember a moment where we've not gone, well, they were cool.
Good,
So, what is your process of picking? Are you very precise and thinking about who you're going to get on? Or?
Yeah, so people approach me now, which is nice.
Wicked.
So people come to me, and then it allows me to be like beforehand, me and Katie were saying, like, well, these are the ones we've got lined up. They were the ones that I decided, well, these line up and can add some value to what we're talking about. So we've got a good few people about topics I also want to know about. So we've got them on. Then other people come on, I'm like, or they'll message, I'm like, do you want to talk about this? It's got nothing to do with anything I'm interested in. Because again, also, if someone's coming on something that I'm interested in, I know I can turn it to basically add value to the audience.
Yeah.
But if I'm not interested in it, and it's not a topic, it's not a topic that's going to add value to the audience.
Yeah.
No. Because I don't need to. I'm at the stage now in the blessed position where that's the case. And then, but someone like Rory, I will then reach out to them because I saw him. I was like, I want you on my podcast. So I do still reach out to people. That's not very often because normally I've got enough people to be like, oh, I've got these guests on. But it's like Dave Norton's, for example, he then just reached out to me in person.
Yeah.
And was just like, I've seen some stuff that you're doing. I would really like to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And then he then told me his story. I was like, wow, like this is insane. And the fact that he felt so comfortable to share his story with us for the first time, and obviously I'd worked with him, so I knew his story, but I didn't know anywhere near the detail that he shared. Like that for me is one of those moments where I'm like, wow, like the podcast is doing exactly what I wanted it to do, because this guy literally said to me, I've had offers from all these newspapers, but I want to do it with you because you understand and you're going to get the best out of my story. I mean, that, like, what kind of compliment? Like, there's no better compliment for me. So that's basically where I'm at now. I'm very selective of the guests because I'd rather just sit here by myself and just talk and add value than have a guest on that's not going to add value. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to have a bad guest on, because I can't predict how the person can communicate and if they do have any value, but from what they present, and I always do my research onto my guests as well, then that's why the standard's been good.
And I'm going to ask, like, any habits that you've noticed as well that you've developed on, because for me, this is a compliment for you, is your active listening ability has become phenomenal. Like, you're engaged in there, you're in the moment, and you're asking the perfect questions for that to sort of build, but you're listening all the time. You're just hooked in. Not to say I've seen you before just waiting for them to finish and go, but you seem a bit more comfortable and confident in a bit of silence, and then taking it to where it needs to go next. I don't know if you noticed that, but that was just something from my perspective. I thought Dan really listens now and works with that.
That, I think, again, at the start, you're right, is something I then noticed that I was interrupting people.
That's
and
the
it
word.
pissed
Yeah,
me
that's
off.
exactly what. Yeah, okay.
It would piss me off.
Yeah, man, that's interesting.
Because what happens is people are talking, and I get so excited about, and I'm like, oh no, but let's go here. But I'm like, they hadn't finished talking.
Yeah.
And I'll get pissed off because I'm like, where could that conversation have gone if I just let them talk?
Very
And
good.
that's why now you see me take notes, because it's like people will talk, and I'm like, oh, take notes on that, carry on talking. And then at the end of the conversation, when there's that pause, I can then be like, where do I want this conversation to go? And obviously, you don't edit it. I'm not sat there like, where do I want it to go? Naturally, there'll be a flow. It'll either be a case of, well, you've kind of naturally brought this conversation to an end. Let's just loop back. You said something here I want to go to. Or we'll come back to this later on. You've said something really cool here. Let's go down that rabbit hole. And I've just got just a lot better, because I was listening back to the episodes and it's been like, I've done it again. It really bothered me. And I'm always self-reflecting, because I've had 4 people recently, literally in the last month, last 4 weeks, 4 people have said to me I talk too quickly.
Okay, yeah.
And for me, I've reflected on it a lot, and I don't think I talk quickly. I think I talk how I need to talk. Passionately to get my energy across.
I agree,
because if I slow it down, I will forget what I'm saying.
I'm not exaggerating. You get me on the up. Like,
but that's what I want. And the
like,
podcasts that I listen to are people that are like, just listen to me.
Yeah.
Like, come on, just listen.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and be like,
I can't
I really think that, you should be really G'd up to train. No, like, I'm going to show you that I'm passionate about it. And when I talk in schools, this is how I talk. I talk because this is how I want to talk. Because also, I don't really want to talk this way. This is just how I talk.
Yeah.
I don't consciously, I've said it before, I don't consciously think how I'm talking. I just do it. And then for people to say, you talk too quickly, and 4 people in 4 weeks, I was like, is the universe trying to tell me something here? So I've actually had to stop and go back and listen to it and be like, do they have any valid points?
Maybe for them.
And that's basically the conclusion is, I talk too fast for them.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
That's
because I'm not for everyone.
Yeah.
So cool. So do you think I talk, thank you. Do you think I talk quickly? That's fine. I've listened back and I'm happy with how I talk, because that's just me showing passion. And I'm not going to stop showing passion. I'm not going to stop caring, because I do care. So if you hear me in an episode and I'm talking really slow, unless it's a real deep episode that I need to, and I'm just doing one by myself and I'm talking slow and mundane, then you know that it's probably time for me to stop podcasting.
Yeah.
It's just not me.
No.
I wouldn't want to listen to that. And if people don't like that, then just don't listen to me.
The audience that you've grown to this date now is because of who you've been all along this journey.
So I care.
Yeah.
I literally, genuinely, it sounds bizarre. It sounds absolutely bizarre, because people are like, we don't know me. No, I don't know you, but I can understand your struggles because I've been there.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just want to help. And that's my thing. I've got information I know can help. And even if it's not my information that helps, it could spark something that then means you go and search something else, and then you then become the best version of you in whatever capacity that looks like for you. So I'm not here to say to people, you've got to do this, you've got to live your life this way. Because at the end of the day, I don't care. I never say to you, Mikey, you've got to do this. But sometimes you ask me for my advice. I then give it you. I then don't say you've got to do it that way.
No.
If you then choose to ignore me and do something, and then don't turn around and say, well, you bloody idiot, you should listen to me.
Yeah.
I'm just like, cool, well, you've asked me for my advice. I've given it to you. You either listen to it or you don't. But at the end of the day, you're going to take the information and you're going to apply what you want to apply to your life. And then you do your life because it's your life. That's what this podcast is. It's not me saying this is what you've got to do. It's just like, this is stuff I've learned. Here's how it kind of works. Here's how it can work in your life. Does it fit? And if people are like, no, cool. Simple as that.
I'll ask you a few more questions just about episodes and stuff. But you've had so many very emotional episodes. Is there one that springs to mind where it was hard to actually conduct the interview because you were getting quite caught up in emotion?
The last one was Dave Norton.
That was a bit.
That was the most
gripping.
I've never been in a situation like that because obviously I knew Dave's story, not in detail, but I knew his story. So even when we were talking about it, because I'm not sure, I think we mentioned in there was a break halfway through. So an hour in, Dave needed to take a break. So then he left the room, and then there was me, you, Katie, and then his videographer, Chris. And I basically turned around to you guys and was like, "Are you guys okay?" Because it really dawned on me that I was having to keep my stuff together. And I knew the story, and you guys didn't.
It's graphic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's graphic and it was deep.
Yeah.
And I knew you guys knew kind of what it was about, but there's knowing what it's about and then hearing that.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I'm holding it together here. How are you guys doing? And you guys are like, I know it's hard, but we're good. That's impactful. That for me was like, wow, this is a real moment. So that was a massive one. Then again, Rory was a big one because again, never met the guy, and he was just there openly crying. And I've never met the guy. And I was like, wow, like you would need bringing me to tears. That's then emotional and moving. There's then a guy that had called Terry Tucker, who was talking about dying, and like and death. And I was like, wow. And then Fleet Mall as well. Remember that one?
Yeah.
So again, Fleet Mall literally
that.
just so again. I mean, you'll never forget that for another reason.
Let's.
For the people who don't realise, Mikey basically we had to cancel the call with Fleet Mall 3 times. Basically, had to go on the camera with him and say, "My videographer's forgotten his camera with the batteries."
It's the batteries.
The batteries. Mike was like, "Oh, just got the batteries." Then Mikey then left. We said it would be 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, Fleet Mall came back on and said, "He's not here yet. He's going to be another hour." An hour later, came back on. He's going to be another hour and a half.
Just got there.
So literally, then he. So basically,
did we do it on that day?
Yeah, we still did it on that day. No, we didn't. No, we rearranged it. Yeah, but in the end, we arranged it.
Mate.
But anyway, my point with that is, again, I knew his story.
Yeah.
I'd done my research into him, and I knew how much his son had impacted him.
Yeah.
But I had no idea this son had died.
Wow.
Do you remember that part?
Yeah, I remember the moment that.
So literally,
came through.
he just literally dropped, and I was just
Do you
like,
think he left that out from?
I don't know. I just don't think I was looking for that.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for that part of his story. I was looking at his
story.
Yeah,
said that.
His story is so powerful.
Yeah.
And reading his book, which I had been doing, I'm just like, I hadn't got to the end of his book because again, my reading, so my ability to research my audience. If I've got a guest, and I've got a book, I will read the book, but sometimes I don't get to finish it.
Yeah.
So I hadn't clearly got to the point even if it mentions it in the book, I don't know. But he always referenced his son in the book, always. So I knew his son was a massive thing. So on the podcast for him to mention it and me not know. Honestly, like the feeling in my stomach, I was just like I was like breathless.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. It's like you're watching a movie and there's just a sudden plot twist, but I can't sit there and show it because I'm doing an interview.
I should have got your like breaking moment on slow mo.
Yeah, so I just needed that moment just to be like. But what ideally I'd have done was in the movie, if I could have just paused it, I'd have paused it.
Yeah.
Let that sink in. Compose myself and then gone again, but I can't, and that's sometimes hard with the episodes, like with the Dave Norton one, for example. Like I've got to stay on the level to keep conducting the podcast. Whereas if I was listening, like again, a lot of listeners listen to that, you probably a lot of emotions and feelings. I had the same things, but I had to really suppress them to just get through the episode to deliver what we needed for Dave, because the whole episode was for him.
Yeah.
So I couldn't then start getting emotional and breaking it down. I had to be like, right, I've got to hold it together so Dave's got a safe space to carry on. So again, they're the main ones I think off the top of my head. And then the Ralph Dickwebeck, again, just before you came along, where he was sharing his story about being in the military in America, the Marines. Basically worked his way up. It's a 2-part episode, so it was like a 3-hour conversation with this guy. And it was during lockdown, so I was really big on Call of Duty. And he basically spoke about all the training he did to go become a Marine, and then he speaks about in detail about the time he got shot, the first time he got shot, and how scared he was. And then he talks about how one of the interpreters turned on his team and like, all this stuff. And then he was an IED person, basically meaning he basically had to check out IEDs. They'd finished their mission, they were going to go home, but they had explosives left. So they decided to go and blow up a bridge so the Taliban couldn't get across. And there was a building by the bridge, so he went to go and clear the room out. And he said at the start, early part of the episode, he said, the most dangerous part when I was clearing out rooms isn't me, because I know where I've scoped and where I haven't scoped, is other people coming into my area.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what happened. Someone came in, stepped on one, blew both his legs off.
Wow.
Nearly, I think he died on the helicopter. So basically ranked up there doing that. That then happens. And now he's a gold medalist Paralympian ice hockey player for America.
Wow.
So his story is just absolutely insane. It's insane.
I'll go back to that one.
Yeah. So my dad said the same thing. He says, like, because my dad just started listening to them, I didn't even realise. So hi, Dad. He just started listening to them. And he said, well, what episodes would you recommend? I said, well, actually, that was a real hard hitting one. That was really cool because he goes into detail about what it's like to be shot, and he's really open and graphic about it. And I'm just like, wow, here's me playing these computer games, but you're literally describing the fear after all the training of when you're actually getting shot.
It's the beauty of the podcast, isn't it, as well? Like, us reflecting and you having nostalgia of all these different episodes, but these are forever now. You've recorded them, you've got them, and you can just signpost people to them every so often.
It's a
like,
legacy.
You need this one.
It's a legacy. Like,
Yeah.
if something happens to me,
The beauty in it.
it's there. Like, or like, it's like, and this is also what I'm trying to do. Obviously, I've got no intention of leaving the planet anytime soon, but it's a legacy. It's always going to be there. And that's why I like the episodes where I do it by myself, because I'm imparting my knowledge and wisdom that's helped me and helped my clients, and then passing it on to listeners. Because I'm very aware that not everyone wants to work with me on a one-to-one level. That's absolutely fine. But here's some information that's going to help you. Just implement it.
Yeah. Timeless.
Yeah, timeless. Yeah.
And it's more than just you then, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. It's the bigger
information
picture. And that's why, again, for me, because someone said to me the other day, someone challenged me, it's like, why do you want to go into schools? And why do you want to work with this sort of demographic? And I was just like, because it leaves behind something. It means something.
Yeah.
If you can impact kids and help save a kid's life, what's better than that?
And
Because like I said with Rory, if you save a kid's life, that kid then goes on to have kids.
Yeah.
You've then saved that kid's life as well.
Yeah.
If that kid goes on and does something incredible in
Their
the universe, in the world,
ancestries.
and that for me is what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's why I care so much, and that's why when I talk, I'm so passionate with these kids in school. It's like, and I remember one of the schools I went to, I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast, I knew one of the teachers there, and bizarrely it was a sixth form I was at. And when the kid turned around to this woman, and this bizarre thing, she knew me when I was like a massive fuckboy. So she knew me when I was, I think, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's when she knew me.
Yeah.
I'd never done anything with her before anyone thinks.
Yeah.
But she knew me in that era, so she knew what I was like.
Yeah.
She had not seen me all that time. I'm now 33 years old, and she's like, what are you doing here? I'm just like, oh, I'm doing this. And then she sits in on my assembly, and she's literally like, wow, I remember you being like this.
That's amazing.
And hearing the story. But when the kids turned around to her halfway through and said, why is he shouting at us? And she went, no, he's not shouting, that's passion.
Yeah.
Because like these kids hadn't heard a speaker come in and actually be so like, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Just listen. And he's like, no, he's not shouting. Like, just listen. Actually listen to what he's saying and how he's coming across. He's not shouting. It's passion. He's actually trying to...
It's just that person.
Yeah.
It's always that person, because there might be 20 kids in there that are feeling riled up and ready to go. And some kids do, they just need a gentle approach. And we had a discussion on radio recently about role models. And that was a beautiful penny drop moment for me, is everybody just needs something different. Yeah. Everybody needs a different approach and style. You can't constantly be amalgamating yourself just to appease in front of you. I think there's a great quote, but if everybody loves you, you're doing something wrong.
Or you can't be everyone's cup of tea, or you'd be a mug.
Oh, I love it, mate.
But it's the same thing, because some people won't relate to me purely because I'm a male.
Yeah.
And again, that could be a male or female. Like I said, they've got personal preference. So when you go to doctors and they say, do you want a male or female?
Yeah.
Do you mean, it's like, okay, man or woman? Do you want man or woman? Like, you have a preference. Some people prefer to open, I don't know, talk about certain, the genital areas. Some prefer the same sex.
Yeah.
Some prefer cool. So people listen to me, and some people will literally be able to hear the exact same information. I could literally write a script, read it, and then get someone else to do it. There's the opposite sex. Say the exact same thing in the exact same tone with the exact same passion, and it will resonate more because it's coming from a woman's voice.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely fine. I do not care.
What works
as long as people are getting this information, I do not care how they get it. I'm not bothered. I don't even care if I'm a gateway to other people's podcasts. I don't care. If I'm the one that starts them on the journey of podcasts and then they go and listen to other people's podcasts and that then helps them in some way, shape or form, that's my job done. Because my job is to help people. It's not to be egotistical and be like, you've got to stay. Obviously, I'd love everyone to stay here and listen to this and watch it grow. But my point is, like, if that's what people do, then that's fine by me. If I can just be that part of the journey for them, that's all I care about. Just to get them in the door. And again, same with my clients. I just get them in the door, get them to really understand their potential. And there's all this information out there. And then what they choose to do from there is up to them.
Mate.
It's been a powerful episode.
It's been really good. So I could keep going on it.
Trip down memory lane.
Mate, I know you have yours at a nice hour-long episode. I think we'll be going about now.
Yeah, we're nearly there. We're on about 48 minutes, but it's not that. On the hour, I've got my business mentor. So this point, me and Mikey get talking before the episodes. And,
I was being very conscious then.
Do you have another question? Do you have another final question that's popped into your head? We'll go from there. There's one final thing I want to ask.
I suppose we've done the emotive side and emotional podcasts, but maybe a guest where you had a certain way of thinking and they helped spin a different way of thinking for you, or really powerful thought process. So a guy popping into my mind with us was like when you did the Martin Illingworth one and education. I just remember we were on the bus, weren't we? But you did this, like, you got quite emotional. You're like, where the fuck was this guy when I was at school? But I was thinking of those sort of figures where it was more learning for you.
That's interesting. I'd have to go back and flick through some episodes, to be honest with you, and I'll literally do that while you're talking. Also, while I'm talking to you. The ones that spring to my mind straight off the bat is the Paul Cope.
Yeah.
That is one straight away where listening to him, especially when his conversation was how to solve all life problems, I'm like, mate, like how? And then to hear how he actually did that, I was like, wow, that is powerful. So that is definitely one. The Betty one, again, confirmed a lot of the stuff that I know. But that was also a massive one for me to be a bit like, okay. The David Eames, that was a really good one. Bob was an interesting one. Remember Bob Ginsberg?
Yeah.
He was talking about Beyond the Five Senses and basically talking about stuff like that. I'd seen him on an episode of stuff before. That was powerful. Mary Joy about codependency and narcissistic abuse. I had no idea about
episode.
That. Unreal. So again, with Mary Jo, this is also what people don't understand. When I get really powerful guests on my podcast, I then invite them back to do special workshops with my clients.
Yeah.
So basically, Mary Joy, I basically put that out on Instagram because it was so powerful and I thought so many people need to hear her. She then did a special workshop for my clients and people on Instagram to basically discuss codependency and narcissistic abuse. That was unbelievable. Because again, looking back now...
Do you know if she got any work from that with any of your clients? Because I was going to say, like, her amount of information.
Two people that we know straight away.
Wow.
And that's the thing for me, off the back of that, like I'm looking back at some of these episodes and I forgot how many we'd actually done.
It's crazy,
I'm
isn't it?
I'm scrolling through and I'm just like, wow,
play.
this is like... And again, even the Chris Felton one about the taking financial control, that information is stuff that I basically had to pay money for.
Yeah.
And he's there giving it away for free. I'm like, what the hell? That was powerful. The Amir one, talking about magic and mushrooms. The Jay Little one, the racism one, because again, two Nottingham lads from the other side of the river, and basically him sharing what it was like to be a black male growing up in Nottingham. That, again, for me, was absolutely powerful. Stephen Warnock, purely from being a Villa fan, and actually hearing what was going on behind the scenes at Villa Park, because I remember watching it and seeing the team capitulate, and he's there like, well, this is why. That, again, was massive and absolutely mega for me to be like, wow, that was a real shifting moment for me. Again, obviously, Paul Cope spoke about that. I'm not going to keep scrolling through,
we'll go down the list.
But basically, that for
you
me,
have had a diverse range, haven't you?
So that for me, there's been a lot of moments where in the episode, whether I show it or not, where I'm like, wow. Because I always try and go into the episodes, even if I know the topic we're talking about, I always try and go into the episodes and be like, what can I learn from this?
Even the redefined meat one.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Yeah, interesting.
I'd not learned anything about that before. Yeah, that was...
So all of it. I only get people on now that I know can add value.
Yeah.
So,
mate,
this has been awesome. Where can people find out more information about you?
I'm Rhythmical Mike, and that's at the Old Farm Bus.
And anyone that's followed me on Instagram recently, my Instagram has changed. It's Daniel_James_coaching. So remove the fitness, it's now coaching.
Good man.
Until next time, guys, take care. Love you guys.
Peace.